A lot of people, when they ask, and I'm going to interject this before I get there because this is so important when we are trying to build our careers. We need career builders. That's who she is. Been on my journey, many things, not about me. There's a launching that must take place in your career because you got to go up on levels. I tell entertainers, I tell Esther Austin a lot of times. Think about Greg.
Because on some, she's trying to get me back. On Sunday, I called her Carrie Grant error, so I think she's just going back against me.
I promise, I really didn't mean it. But I've been in this business over, I'm like you, it's been many, many moons. In the entertainment, music, recording, you name it. Carrie's done it. Film, movies, commercials. I'm gonna tell it to you now. Over 55 plus years. And I've been successful in this industry. And I'm very proud of it. But here comes Esther Austin. She heard about a story. We're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how we got here. And a wonderful man by the name of Greg Austin said, you need to meet a Carrie Brown. She's positive, she has integrity, and she's about business. I'm a business professional, and I take it very seriously. I've owned my own companies, and I built them. I built an empire. My children had their own empires, and they still do today. But I needed an Esther Austin. By Greg connecting Esther to me at one of the shows, she came over there. Are you Carrie Brown? I said, yes. She said, well, my name is Esther Austin. She didn't bat an eye. I said, oh, so nice to meet you. I didn't know her from a campaign. She said, well, I can't really talk to you tonight, but I'm coming back. But I heard there's some very intriguing, interesting things I'd like to kind of find out about. I didn't even know anything about a magazine. So she contacted me. Can I send you some questions and answers? You answer them. I said, as long as you promise, you won't put on there what I don't want you to put on there. Please, I really meant that, confidentiality. Like she said, that trust factor, confidential, you know. She did that. But by her doing that, then she said, you know what? I got an idea. I want to put you in my magazine. And I want to call it Champion of Champions is what she saw with me. She wrote that story in 2018 as I was changing the guard for crowning here in Las Vegas, getting ready for my coronation walk. There were only specific people assigned for that mission, and Esther Austin got clearance to come in and take those interviews, photos, and I still didn't know how big it was going to launch. We needed Esther Austin. She wrote the story. I go to LA. Next thing I know, I see my face in this big old jumbotron, and I'm like, why am I up there?
So she came to LA because I was launching the magazine at the time in LA. This was probably about 4 years ago, and I've always been one to just keep stepping, and I made it happen. And there was Carrie in that issue, John Wilson from Sly, Slick and Wicked, a beautiful, beautiful man, and a couple of others. And for me, if I've got a platform, I don't mind sharing it. So even though it was the launch of my magazine, I remember I said to John, oh, I'd like you to say something. And he goes, it's you. I said, no, say something. And then when Carrie came in, I'm like, you're up next. And so that's how, and then she walked in, and that's how I really got to know her. And even when the connection with Greg Austin was, that was it. So Sonny Turner, no, Little Anthony, there's so many. Little Anthony, I remember interviewing Little Anthony around March, I think it was 2018. And then I said, oh, I would so love to see you because we had such fun. Good evening. We had such fun in the interview. And he said, well, darling, if you want to see me, I'm going to be performing in Vegas in June. I'm like, I'm coming. He goes, if you get here, I will look after you. I just said to my son, I'd like to get your credit card out, I'm going. And so I arrived, and that's when at Greg Austin's, so I saw Little Anthony, but then I also went to see Greg Austin, and that's also where I met Carrie. When I was leaving, it was also when I was leaving, I noticed the energy about this lady, and I said something to her, and I remember her, I said, I don't have time because I'm leaving, but let's connect. And so when I came back to London, we connected. And then that's how the rest of the journey transpired.
And I share that tonight because it's important. Networking. How we network. So that was just a little touch. So then we're going to go to the question and answers. But again, it's so important to understand how do we get, look, on this level.
Absolutely.
Because we is on a mega level now. It's huge. Okay, now. She wrote that story. I'm over there to support her, I thought. But there was an announcement made over there in Los Angeles, California, that this lady in Las Vegas, Nevada, her story has hit globally, worldwide. It launched me, look at that. And I started to soar. And everybody wanted to know more about what I did, my platforms, the entertainment, the music, the recordings, all the stars and legends, the great entertainers I have worked with all my life. Put them on big stages that they couldn't even get on. I needed an Esther Austin. Now we're going to ask her some questions. That's how we got here tonight. I'm telling you, she said, the Terminator, you know what they call me? A dynasty beast. Come on now. I needed an Esther Austin. Well, Esther, I heard some wonderful things about you, and I know the excellence and the quality of the work that you display, the heart that you put into your magazines. I really am curious because I really see your passion. What really got you involved in doing the magazines and the type of work that you bring to us in our communities and all over the nation now?
So what initially got me into producing the magazine, for years I've always interviewed people, had this passion to interview people. And there was something about the interviews, my process that kept on coming back to me, and that people said, you sometimes make people, they say, why do you always make people cry on your platform? And I'm like, it's not on purpose, but it's because they felt really relaxed. They felt they could be their authentic selves. And also, for a lot of people, many times, even though they've been in the industry for an incredibly long time, they were able to share never before told stories. And I was in Barbados, I think it was 2016. And
Is it 2016?
It's
I remember
2016.
you went.
Yeah.
In 2016, yes.
And I was sitting in Barbados, and it's almost like I've got this wonderful body of interviews because I had just interviewed Freddie McGregor, the reggae artist, and we always have such fun. And I'm like, I need to get more exposure for their stories, for their experiences. And, you know, I was sitting there in Barbados in the hot sun. Who's from Barbados? She from Barbados. You understand the lingo? You understand what I'm saying?
That's right, that's right.
And then then I just heard, you know, magazine, create a magazine. And I didn't know where to start, but I was, you know, I remember the next day I stayed up in my bed all day and I just walked in faith. I went online, had to create a magazine, and I started to put articles together. I galvanized information that had already been sitting there, and I put the first magazine together. And on the front, it was a little A5 thing. I just put it together, and I remember just staying in bed for about 3-4 days, and I produced this little magazine. It was so cute. I'm not cute for a magazine. And then just showing it to people, and I printed off a few copies, And that was the start, because it wasn't about me, it was me creating a platform that can have those voices, that can represent those voices, that can hold those voices. And then in the second issue, I interviewed Sister Sledge.
Yes.
And they had just lost their sister Joni.
That's right.
And they gave me an exclusive, and I thought, I'm onto something here. But it wasn't just because they were legends or pioneers or celebrities, it was more so the stories they were choosing to share, because they knew that they had an authentic platform to put them on. And so there's the magazine, but I also have my platform on the Sofa with Esther, where I interview these legends and pioneers. I mean, I've interviewed Paulie Carmen. Kevin is Paulie Carmen's management. I've interviewed Paulie Carmen from Champagne, and we've had the most incredible moments. And I always check on them. And then I've interviewed the late Mary Wilson many times. I've interviewed the former Supremes, Greg Williams from Switch, Trina Parks, who was the first African-American woman to play in a Bond movie, the late Sonny Turner from the Platters, Jimmy Thomas. And I always remember a couple of years ago, because I was interviewing indie artists as well as legends, and I had the Whispers on the same platform as the Ebonies, as well as Jimmy Thomas from Tina Turner. And I you know when your head buzzes, because I'm in this space with legends, and it was so cool when they were like, hey man, I remember you, man, and they were just really honoring each other on that platform. And for me, that was powerful. And when I came, because I do them by Zoom, and then another time was when I interviewed the Emotions, Diane Mathis, and someone else, and they're like, girl, we used to watch you when you were growing up. And so it's a platform of honoring.
Yes, that's right.
It's a platform of honoring.
Absolutely.
And I'm an old school, I'm an old soul, because I believe in honoring. We don't have that anymore. Honoring the authenticity of someone else's journey, someone else's soul. That is deep. But I'm not going to get too deep now, because I can get really deep.
Because I was going to get ready to get it. I thought I was doing the Q&A. She just ran with it. Because that was going to be the next thing. And my big sister is Cindy Birdsong of the Supreme. But you named some of the famous people that you have worked with. So now I want to know the struggle. Do you struggle? How do you go through trying to get to different people that you want to interview? Because we know that you don't only just do the entertainment industry. You're in, many different genres, rap, hip hop, but, do you find that it's easy, or do you have to do like I did in old school, sneak around, run through windows, go past security and say they let you be in the room and they didn't, stuff like that? What do you find today that maybe is a little different than what we did have to do to get to those people? Do you find it a little bit more easier versus going through management?
Oh, I go many ways. So if I can't get through management, I'm kind of ignorant that way. I would say I'm kind of persistent that way. So sometimes I go through management. A lot of times it's by recommendation. And also in the UK, I often get press passes to lots of the music festivals. And so I get access to interview, I get contacted to interview the artists that way. And that's the link. And sometimes it's just sheer, when you're supposed to be meeting someone and you're supposed to be meeting, and you've got those hurdles, and people know me, I don't see the hurdles. I've already gone under, gone around, gone over, hula hoops, cartwheels, whatever it takes, because if I'm supposed to be getting this, I'm getting this. And I know sometimes, interestingly, when I'm supposed to rest and something's happened, there's a reason why something's happened to still me for that moment. But otherwise, if I know that I'm supposed to be there, I will get there. Like I said, I ended up in LA 2 years ago at the pre-Oscar event, looking like Santa Claus with 2 suitcases and a backpack. And the odds that were against me to get here, but I'm like, I'm here for a reason, I'm here for a purpose, on purpose, in purpose, and I got here. And I remember at that time, they said, what's your budget? I didn't have a budget. I don't have budgets. I just make things happen. Or
That's right.
I pray and I manifest what I need.
Yeah.
And for me, if I eat once a day, I'm not going to die. I'm fasting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if I have to walk someplace, it's exercise. I've always, and sometimes even when my kids were younger, and there was a lot that went on for me to get here. But I have one kid on my back, I have one in a pushchair, have bags, and I'm going. And sometimes people would say to me, "How did you get here?" I'm like, "I walked." I'm like, "You're crazy." No, I walked because there's a vision, there's a purpose, there's an outcome.
Yes, it is. Fabulous. Because what this whole purpose is, and we'll get to the next question, is the expression of the essence that drives you, your driving force. And so the next question that I have, because I have looked over many of your different things and the things that you have done, the excellence of the quality that you bring forth. People have to understand, if the quality is not there, I want to know, what do you strategically use to pick out the quality of what you bring forth in your magazines today?
I have people around me that would tell me the truth. So people around me, we are driven, but we are about perfection, yeah? And I have a couple of people, just only a few, and it's almost like I can go to them and say, this is what I'm doing. And we hold each other accountable because we want to become the best that we can be. And that's what drives me. And also, you know, in that moment of, I would say, prayer, meditation, I always get told what to do. That's what drives me. That's what, because sometimes I'm tired and my spirit would say to me, no, you've got to go over this. You've got to do this again. And I would just keep elevating that way. So it's through prayer and being connected, but also having people around that know mediocre. And there's nothing wrong with being mediocre if that's where you're at that moment in time. But for me, I always want to see, how much better can I become? How much further can I go? We are expansive. God has given us this expansiveness. We're not limited. And I don't want to be limited because that's not in my breath. That's not in my space. And sometimes when I feel I've expanded, then I get told, do this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't have the capacity. But then I find I have the capacity because I expand organically.
I'm telling you, she's powerful, y'all. She's powerful. Now, I'm gonna say, I'm not trying to get you back for Sunday, but I did forget to make mention of something, so I'm gonna use it as a Q&A. I want to know about your designs and your fashions that you bring to the USA. I'm telling you, I love her because, again, in this business, I mean, my line is the queen is attire, but you have to be versatile marketing your line of fashion wear and all the wonderful. Now, are you doing jewelry?
Not yet. Okay. It's interesting. Sorry to cut you.
No,
it's interesting because I guess people see that entrepreneurial spirit in me, and they're like, you could do this, you should do that. And I'm like, give me time and space, because there's a one-man band at the moment, but she's expanding. And I've always said that you don't stop. You do better and differently. You do what you can do until you can do better and differently, but you don't stop. And so because I've got this creative mindset and I've always been outside of the box, I've never followed the crowd. And even in terms of how I dress, my fashion range is called the Funky Butterfly because it's for women who want to authentically be themselves, but who are creative in their expression of themselves. Yeah. So for me, I always say I can do sexy in a black bag. It's how you wear it. It doesn't, well, not quite. I mean, you get the analogy, but because there's this societal thing that to look sexy you've got to be this. No, it's how you wear it. It's how you rock. It's how your soul wears you. And when you put on the attire, you put on the essence of who you are. And even like my granddaughter, I remember, because she's like a mini me. She's 9 next week actually, and I remember one time she stayed over at me, and we were invited out to a fashion show, and I'm like, I don't have any clothes here, but I had I had done an adult and a child's wear, and she went into the suitcase and she selected. And she put on harem pants, she put on one of these dresses, and she put on an asymmetrical waistcoat. I'm like, but that's how I would dress. And she rocked it. So it's about having that eclectic range of, I can be this, I can wear this. I'm not constricted or restricted to one way of being or looking. But each part of that is an expression of who I am.
Awesome. Okay, we got 2 more questions. You just ran with one of my questions, so I didn't know what to come up with.
In your head.
Talking about all the people but we know what she interviewed, but I worked with a lot of them before I even got to Vegas, so I get it. But up and coming, who are you now going to be featuring in the magazine? I guess.
So the winter edition is coming out in November, and front cover I've got Alexander O'Neill because he's doing. Hello. Alexander O'Neill because he's doing a farewell tour, and I had the privilege of interviewing him 2 weeks ago. He is so down to earth. There is such a wisdom there, and I felt so privileged. And with the magazine, how it's evolving for the winter issue, I'm very passionate about old school meets new school, community unity, bringing together. And now the magazine is Turning Point, music and lifestyle, where old school meets new school, because it's about bringing back the community. You know, we talk about it takes a village to raise a child. In the village, there aren't any elders in there because they're acting like a lot of the. Okay, so for me, and this is no judgment, but it's how can we bring back that unity community? And so with the magazine now on the front cover, and I've got a sheet there that's got it, but I've got Alexandra O'Neill, and then I've got a young UK rapper called Shocker. He used to be with a huge band back in the 90s, in the 2000s. They were huge and then they fell. And he was sectioned, I don't know if you know, he was sectioned 3 times for mental health issues, because when the band crashed, he crashed mentally.
Wow.
He was sectioned, but in that space,